It's being a little slow. Good to go.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Anthony Zeiton, and welcome to the Planning Board for September 17th, 2024. I'm filling in as chair tonight for both Carrie Martinick and the chair, and Amy Peresky, who's vice chair. We're both out tonight. This open meeting of the Northborough Planning Board is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law on March 29th, 2023. All members of the planning board are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The act allows the planning board to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of the meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting is not, Lori? Public comment?
We don't have any public hearings this evening, but possibly somebody will be chiming in. I'm not sure. So far, we don't have any attendees.
Okay, this meeting may or may not feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Millie Melton.
Here.
Bill Pierce.
Here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Lori Connors.
Here.
Okay, great. So tonight on the agenda, first item we have is A&R's lot releases and bonds, and we're looking at the release of performance guarantee for Harrington Lane, CNA surety bond 718-4381 for $16,500. Lori, any comments on this one?
No. So the Board of Selectmen signed off on the conveyance of the land about a month ago. And so there was one last item that had to be completed, which was the installation of the street sign. So that was completed. So everything has been done. The town now owns the roadway. So the performance guarantee is no longer needed. So I am recommending that you approve the release of this surety bond.
Okay. Board members, any comments or questions?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Do I have a motion to release the performance guarantee for Harrington Lane CNA surety bond 718-4381 for $16,500?
So moved.
Second. This is a roll call vote. All in favor, Millie Melton.
Aye.
Bill Pierce.
Aye.
And I am Anthony is an aye as well. We're moving on to old and new business. This is to discuss the proposed name for common driveway at 85/95 West Street, which is proposed Phineas Common Drive. It sounds like we do need to vote on this, but I don't know, does anybody have any comments or questions, concerns? No? Okay.
No.
Do we know what the Phineas is named after?
I knew that question was going to come up. And I tried to find an answer. I spoke with Michelle Gillespie, who is representing the developer. She has this property for sale. And she did not know what Phineas represented, but she was going to try and get an answer for me. And I followed up with her today, but unfortunately she hasn't responded as to the significance of Phineas. So I cannot answer that question. I did receive an email from Bob Licht, who is the chair of the Historical District Commission. And they were concerned that Phineas wasn't on the list for road names, acceptable roadway names. So I explained to him that this is something new they were doing, that common driveways are not roadways, so therefore they are not subject to that road naming policy. I explained that due to E911 purposes, the emergency services have requested that we name common driveways instead of listing the addresses and the name common drive because it's too confusing for emergency personnel. So we really have no policy to date on the naming of common driveways. So it's not applicable to that. So I reassured him we weren't violating the policy. So I just wanted to clarify that in case there are further questions.
Okay. The only thing I want to, if this were to ever, either, they make a request to become a roadway or, somebody questions the Phineas name and come to find out it's some, killer from the 1950s or something. Right. And I know you laugh, but I don't want anyone to come back and say, well, why did you use that name? Did you not check? Right. So
Yeah.
let's put it in the record that we did ask.
All right. Well, if that's that, I would say, do I have a motion to approve the name Phineas Common Drive for 85/95 West Street?
So moved. I was waiting, Bill.
Yeah, I figure we'll alternate. So second.
This is a roll call vote. Bill Pierce,
Aye.
Millie Melton,
Aye.
and Anthony, myself, is an aye. Next item is minutes for August 20th. Did you guys get to have a chance to read those?
Yep. I
Yep.
didn't really say anything too significant that needed to be changed or addressed.
I'm sure that if we had Amy there, she would have found something.
Yeah.
She did not.
Oh, really?
She specifically emailed to say that she did not find any problems with the minutes. So
Crazy. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from August 20th?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Bill Pierce
Aye.
and Millie Moulton.
Aye.
And I, Anthony, am an aye. Next item is any subcommittee updates.
Not from me. CPC hasn't met for
Yeah,
4 months.
me either.
Yeah, the traffic safety, we actually have roadway signage approved through the select board to be added 7 locations throughout the town, mostly in front of the schools, to add those crossing signs, the light up crossing signs. It came up in our December or January meeting that the crossing guard had actually retired and they hadn't hired another one. And it came as sort of a surprise to everyone on the traffic safety committee. So we talked to the select board and they approved through the ARPA funds to be able to put those signs in there as a backup.
I'm sorry, where are they going?
So they're going in front of the schools. So if you think of where the crossing guard is at Lincoln, where the crossing guard is at Peasley,
Yeah.
and then there's actually 3 at Melican, or 3. There's actually 4 related to Melican. So there's the 2 at either side of Melican. There's the one that crosses Pleasant Street right at Melican there, and then we also suggested and they approved putting one in across Church Street where Pleasant Street is.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that location, we're actually putting in overhead lights as well. So when you hit the button, not only did the yellow lights go on, but there's an overhead white light to really spotlight on the person who's crossing.
That's good stuff. Next item is, next planning board meeting is meetings. First one is October 1st and October 15th. And then the next ZBA meeting is October 22nd.
Actually, we do have one next Tuesday, so I just noticed that missed the agenda. So we will have an item that will eventually come to you folks. So the first step, so it's the property next to us, 67 Main Street. Right now, it's a mixed-use building. It looks like a two-family house. So on the first floor, they have a residential unit. And then on the second floor, they have a commercial unit, which is interesting. So the new property owner hasn't been able to rent out the second floor commercial. She says because of the inadequate parking, there's only 2 parking spaces. And then also the other issue is not too many folks want second floor commercial because then it's not handicap accessible. So she has to go to the ZBA first for a variance for inadequate size for a two-family in the MSR district. So the requirement is 25,000 square feet. This house was built in 1900. So it's on an approximately 6,500 square foot lot. So she's proposing to do a new parking lot. So quite a bit of grading activity. The house itself is pretty much going to look the way it is. It's mostly changes to the site to be able to accommodate the parking for the upper floor unit. So ZBA first for the variance, and then if that gets approved, then she'll be filing with the planning board for the additional unit as well as site plan approval.
So right now it's residential on the first floor and zoned for commercial on the second floor. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so it's called a limited mixed use building. So it's in our zoning bylaw, but it's kind of flip-flopped. So typically you see commercial on the first floor and you see the apartment above. But in this circumstance, it's the other. So it's been a challenge for her.
Do you know of any of the businesses that had been there? Because I'm not even familiar with any businesses that had been there.
She told me, but I forget. I can't remember if it was a dentist that was up there or whether it was a photographer. It was
Okay.
something like that. I can't remember. But
Interesting.
she would be able to answer the question when the public hearing starts next week, if you want to attend the ZBA hearing.
Yeah.
All right, the next master plan implementation committee meeting is October 17th.
That's another one.
Oh.
It's actually next Thursday. It's actually
Okay.
this Thursday, the
Right.
19th. So we kind of messed up on the agenda on that. So sorry about that. So this Thursday, we're going to be talking about master plan implementation again. Let's see. We're going to be talking about chairs and benches in the downtown. And then we're going to be talking about this economic development forum that I spoke to you folks about previously. We went to the select board. They were in favor of doing it. So we have reached out to the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. They just gave us a proposed scope of work yesterday. So I forwarded that to the Master Plan Implementation Committee to see if it's kind of in line what they were thinking. And then I'll send it along to you folks as well. So we don't have a date as of yet. So it's still a work in progress. Tim's last day, I believe, is October 15th. Originally, we were trying to figure out how we could get it done before he leaves. Of course, the town meeting is October 7th, so the time is rapidly slipping by. So I'm not sure if we're gonna make that October 15th deadline. It might have to be a little bit later than that. Is that okay with you folks, or do you have a preference?
I don't.
No, it's fine with me.
Okay,
There's a lot of stuff going on.
yeah. Oh, and the Attorney General, I sent you the email today. The Attorney General's office approved our MBTA bylaws, so that was major. So I'm still
All right.
waiting to hear from the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. They followed up with some additional questions, looking for some clarification on a couple of points. So hopefully they'll get back to us soon as well.
So it has to be approved by both?
It does, yep. So it's officially in the zoning bylaws now that the Attorney General has approved it. But there's still a possibility that EOE, I always screw up the initials. They may deem it unworthy, non-compliant.
Hmm.
So we're hoping that that won't happen and we will be all set. But that's still a risk.
Is that happening to any other towns where they're kicking them back that you've heard?
You know, I just spoke with Vinny and he said that he just got approval for his community. He's the chair of the planning board in his community. And they also had questions for him.
Mm.
And they responded to the questions and they came back with the affirmative approval. In their case, they haven't heard from the Attorney General yet, so they got half as well, just a different half than we got.
What, was it Westboro?
He's in West Boylston.
West Boylston. Okay. I think this is a record meeting. I don't have anything else on the agenda. Anything from you, Lori?
I don't.
Bill or Millie? Nope.
No, I just had a question about, we were gonna be, it's discussing zoning bylaws at some point, reintroducing those. Is that going to be on for something for next meeting, or is that further out?
So I am really trying, I'm on my final push to wrap up the design guidelines.
Okay,
So that's what I've been working on now. We did end up canceling this month's meeting, but we will be meeting on October 10th. So I want to make sure that those are 100%. We are proposing some pretty significant changes
okay,
to not only the text, but also the photos. And we recently decided, well, Michelle and I, we haven't discussed it with the overall design review committee yet, but we would like to reformat the entire document and kind of make it more modern and a more reader-friendly document. So, like I said, it's still a work in progress. I don't want to get distracted from that process because it's already taken too long.
So are you actually going through and proposing these changes? Or
I
both of you?
am. So some of them came from various, so of course it started out with just doing sign bylaws. Doing sign guidelines, which we didn't address at all in our design guidelines. And then it grew from there. And they decided that they really wanted to pin down the New England character. So I've been working on that most recently, which has been a challenge because of course it means different things to everybody. And I
right,
haven't yet shared my narrative with them yet, so I don't know what they will think of it. And then, of course, during that process, I ended up making some other changes here and there. There was some updating that needed to be done because the zoning bylaws have changed so much over the last 12 years. So there were areas of non-compliance in the guidelines with our regulations. Some of the committee members decided to add the new standards in. So that there's quite a bit that's different.
Hmm.
Quite a bit that's the same, but quite quite a bit that's changed.
And also, are you also thinking of tackling the subdivision rules and regulations updating?
Absolutely. So I was hoping,
That could be ongoing though, right?
that you folks would kind of step away from the zoning bylaw changes so that I could concentrate on these other aspects.
Okay.
So if we're gonna do zoning, like I had mentioned last time, I'm hoping it's gonna be minimal number of bylaws.
Because yeah, it seems like there's a couple of big things to tackle.
Yes, and just so that you're up to date, Bartlett Street is coming back at our next meeting in 2 weeks. So that's gonna be a big public hearing. So we have 2 public hearings, so it's the revision of the special permit and site plan review approval. It's also the subdivision approval. And then we also got an application for a small project at 9 Goddard. So that's St. Gobain. So we have a lot to do at our next meeting.
So that one you said is a revision, not an extension?
So it's it's a major modification, but really it's just an extension of the period of time to act.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
so that one's easy, and then the
Yeah.
other one is the subdivision, the definitive subdivision going into public hearing.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, I think that's it. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Feels
moved.
weird, but I'll second it.
Bill Pierce,
Aye.
Millie Milton,
Aye.
and I, Anthony, am an I. I think that's a